Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you all to the Women Members and Empowerment Excellence Committee on behalf of them to this Yashashwini and Idol series. This is 47th episode, and this Yashashwini and Idol series is an extension of is a program conducted by the Women Members and Excellence Committee. This is an extension of the Sky High Symposium. This initiative is taken to empower to just not only empower women members and women members for technical and non-technical skills, but also to empower come forefront in our profession. Now I am today's speaker is C. Mansi Nagra. C. Mansi Nagra is a partner at a leading CA firm, and she's handling specializing in GST and CA virtual CFO services. She's handling compliance, litigation, advisory, and financial reporting while actively contributing to professional community. She is also pursuing LLB for further legal expertise. Now I invite CA Mansi Nagra to continue this session.
Thank you, Dimple. Thank you for a wonderful introduction. And thank you, the Women's Committee, for giving me an opportunity. Uh, I will just share my screen once. Please let me know if it is visible to you all. Can you see my screen? Okay. Yeah. So good afternoon, everyone present here. Today we are going to discuss a recent topic relating to GST, and that is IMS. Now, IMS has been in there are a lot of circulars and clarifications that has been provided, FAQs has been provided by GST. So we will look into each and every aspect of IMS and how we have to practically implement it in our in case of our clients or in the organizations where we work in. So with this, we start with our IMS. Yeah. So whatever said and done, GST always keeps your student, and it keeps on giving you a lot of opportunities to learn, read, and implement on a day-to-day basis. And it is more like a task that is given. So once a task is completed, there is already certain other task which is ready to be performed, just like the Big Boss house. Yeah. And this is how the uh, compliance scenario is. In this, Jerry represents the uh, our compliance team, and the compliances that we have to do for GST. And Tom is trying to chase it, but however we try to chase it, it is still out of our reach, and we have to keep updating and upgrading ourselves to understand the update and to keep implementing the same. So now we come to the actual topic, why invoice management system. Uh, Before getting into how it is to be done, it is very important to know that why this system has been introduced in the first place. When there is an already set system of GST return filing, which has been continuing from at least 1.5 years, 2 years, 3 years down the line, why there is a need to implement this major change into the return filing system. So majority of the GST notices that has come, this is a snippet of the newspaper Hindu of 24th September, wherein they have identified that what are the major show cause notices that has been issued in the GST regime in the past year, and what are the pain points of the taxpayer. Similarly, Business Standard has also issued this article, has written this article on GST notices from 2017-18 till AY 21-22, that so many notices have been issued, and what has been the major points in this issue. Now, ITC claiming and the reversal of ITC has always been a critical point and in question for uh, the ASMT 10 that is issued by the GST departments. Now, again, if we see the statistics of the current year, 23-24, only 555 notices were related to classification disputes and of tax rate. All of the other notices were relating to the returns that were filed. One 3B mismatch, 2B, 3B. So currently it is mentioned as 2A because still the 2A era is being continued and the notices are issued for the period wherein only 2A was available and RCM related queries. Okay, so with this section 155, to claim the ITC, the burden of proof is on the person claiming the ITC. It includes that all the conditions that has been specified in section 16 has to be complied. If it is failed, then it is to be reversed along with the interest and the penalty. And the notices are issued in section 73 and 74. And we can see that the interest amount of interest has almost been equivalent to the tax amount that has to be reversed for ITC. So it is one has to be very cautious when one is claiming an ITC because the reversal of ITC can lead to a huge interest and penalty. So again, now just because a lot of notices has been issued, only that is not the reason for introduction of IMS. One more major reason is that government is moving towards hard locking of the GSTR 3B form, wherein the data populated from GSTR 1 and flowing from GSTR 2B shall be free, and the registered person will not be allowed to modify the same. Now, recently there was an advisory to shift this date from January to a further date to be notified. So it is in the process and it shall come in the near future and it is not very far. So ideally, the IMS is here to continue and to change the way we have been filing our returns and preparing our working. Okay, so why this is the need of an R? Okay, we will first see the timeline for the IMS that had been introduced. Now, when IMS details were uh, first introduced, it was on 3rd September 2024. And later on, through various manuals, FAQs, advisories, it has been clarified and the questions has been answered by the department on various occasions. So this timeline includes majority of the uh, circulars or FAQs relating to the IMS in one slide, which can help you for future references. Okay, so why the IMS is need of an R? Now GST has come up with this new functionality. The facilities is matching the invoices issued by the suppliers with the ITC that we have been claiming, and if there is any correction, then it can timely happen. So this is a basic introduction for the IMS. The said functionality has a major enhancement of ITC ecosystem. The accepted invoices by the recipient would become a part of GSTR 2B. So I would rather say that it is DIY GSTR 2B, wherein 2B can be generated and made by us. We can include the transactions that we want in the GSTR 2B through the help of invoice management system. And it was made applicable from 1st of October on an optional base. So the IMS tab has been active from 1st October 2024 for us. And the taxpayers could take actions on it from 14th October 2024. The first GSR 2B was generated on 14th of the November. That is for the period of October. In November 14th, on 14th of the November, IMS, through IMS, GSR 2B could be generated. Now, what has to be done in IMS? It has there are three tabs: accept, reject, pending. Okay, the action to be taken by the taxpayers is to be either they can accept the invoice, reject the invoice, and keep the invoice as pending. This we will go into further details once we see it through the portal, how it is seen in the portal. Real-time invoice management. So basically, the data, how the data flows into IMS is GS, the supplier raises an e-invoice for the particular invoice, and e-invoice will flow into the GST portal, and through GST portal, in that portal, it will be reflected in IMS and so on. So once the e-invoice is filed by the supplier, it will get reflected in supplier's GSTR1, and on a real-time basis, it will be reflected in our IMS, in the recipient's IMS portal on a gap of around certain hours. So on a day-to-day basis, the reconciliations can happen. Yeah. So basically, as discussed earlier, it is still not mandatory. It is still an optional facility, but as we discussed that it has a hard locking system that is going to be introduced for GSTR 3B. And at that point in time, it will be mandatory for us to follow the IMS process. GSTR 2B generation is based on the accepted invoices and the invoices that are auto-populated into the GSTR 2B, wherein no actions has been taken. Now, even if the actions have not been taken, we have to be cautious that the data directly flows into our GSTR 2B. We can modify the transaction invoices and regenerate the GSTR 2B. Now it streamlines the reconciliation process. So if we go back to the earlier methodology, we used to download GSTR2B. We used to inform the clients. If we say that we are a consultant working for the client, providing them reconciliations on a month-to-month basis, then we would have downloaded the GSTR2B from the portal. We would have verified it through our purchase register, and we would have sent them the list of missing invoices or the invoices that are reflected in GSTR2B but not entered in books. And the reconciliation used to happen mostly between 14th to 20th of every month of the next month, in which the return has to be filed before filing of GSTR2 3B. Now, with the help of IMS, it can be reconciled on at a particular interval even prior to the 14th of every month. And if there is any difference due to any error on the part of the supplier, it can be rectified before the GSTR1 has been filed, or it can be intimated to the supplier. And it helps us maintaining transaction-wise details of what has been claimed into GSTR 3B. So whatever past notices that we have faced, the officers have always asked us to give a list of transactions as to which invoice was claimed in which particular GSTR 3B and when was it reflected in GSTR 2B. So majority of us would have provided a working wherein purchase register would be there, purchase or the inward register on from the books, and we would have mapped the transactions that were reflected in GSTR 2B in which month and the credit in GSTR 3B was claimed in which month. And because of the nature of GSTR 3B, that it included only consolidated entries and only the figures and not the invoice wise details, it was very difficult to match it at a later date. There has been instances where we had the return person responsible for filing the return has also not been able to retrieve the data as to the GSTR 3B consists, the figure that has been updated on the GSTR 3B is consisting of which figures. So to avoid all those errors and also the reversal, the reversal data which we have been reversing from past 1.5 years also has not been transaction wise. That is also the figure that we have been updating, and we had been keeping the records with us. So that whole process of recording the data or reconciliations maintained at an client level or at an Excel level has directly been shifted to the portal through IMS. And it gives us more accuracy in ITC reconciliations, reducing the errors. What records are available for action? All the invoices, I'm sorry, yeah, all the invoices and their amendments, which has been filed by the supplier through GSTR 1, 1A, and IFF, will be available for recipient to take that. And the exceptions to that are uh, place of supply rules, the transaction which has flown through place of supply rules, that can be hotel related transactions which don't belong to your particular state, and section 16(4), which gives a particular timeline that post November of the next year, the credit will not be flowing from IMS to GSTR 2B. We will elaborate these details in the further coming slides. So this is a tabular format of how the data or the invoices will flow. A flowchart has been prepared for easy reference. So the data that is filed in GSTR1 flows through the IMS dashboard, and in IMS dashboard, it can be either accepted, rejected, or kept as pending, and it can flow to GSTR2B. And similarly, if it is an ineligible ITC, due to the reasons discussed earlier, then the ITC is not available it is not available in IMS, and it flows to GSTR2B directly in the not available section in GSTR2B. Invoices not part of IMS. Now, as we discussed earlier, the details flowing from GSTR1 and 1A will be flowing. The documents from GSTR 5 and 6 will not be flowing to the IMS and will be directly updated in GSTR2B as it was earlier. Similarly, import related details which flows from the IceGate are not a part of IMS as of date, and it will be directly flowing to GSTR2B. RCM records also will be directly flowing to GSTR2B, and so on. Now, actions to be taken on invoice in IMS system. So as we discussed, there are 4 options. We can be accepting it. We can be, just give me a moment. Yeah, sorry. Huh. Okay, so we can accept it, reject it, keep it pending, and no action. 4 times of actions that can be taken on the IMS portal. So once the transaction or a particular invoice is accepted in the IMS, it is available to be claimed as credit and will be shown in GSTR2B. If it is rejected, then it again goes back to the supplier. It will be reflected in the supplier's details that this has been rejected, and it will not form part of GSTR2B, and so to say GSTR3B. Pending invoices will remain as a table for us for reference that this invoices, the credit pertaining to this invoices have not flown to GSTR2B, and similarly the credit has not been taken for the same. And no action would directly lead to a transferring of date of those particular invoices in GSTR 2B, assuming it to be accepted. That is, deem acceptance of those transactions wherein no action is taken by the registered person. So again, here the important point is when the data is stop gets does not get reflected in IMS. Once it is flown from GSTR 2B to 3B, it gets out of the IMS system. It will not be shown. The transaction will not be reflected in the IMS dashboard. Similarly, if it is rejected, again it flows into the supplier's part of the IMS and goes out of the recipient's part of the tab. Pending invoices can be referred again in the next month, or it continues to be reflected in our IMS tab, in the recipient's IMS tab, till the 30th November of next financial year. And if no action is taken, again it is deemed acceptance, and it has a similar uh, flow the for the transaction that is accepted. So the important thing is to see that if no action is being taken by us, it is deemed to be accepted. And because we are able to do the reversals in GSTR 3B, it is optional again. But once the 3B is freeze or hard locking of 3B starts, this is going to be mandatory, and no transaction can be going without monitoring it, and or else it will lead to a direct acceptance. Actions to be taken on invoices and IMS. For certain documents, pending action cannot be taken, such as credit note. Now, the credit note cannot be kept as pending, and it has to be accepted or rejected. And pending, this is it is saying that if it is pending, then it will continue till the November. And once the records the timeline of November passes, it will be removed from IMS, and so to say, it will not be flowing to GSTR 2B or 3B, and that particular ITC will be lost for claiming of credit. And it will be moving out of the ITC available criteria for that particular year on an automatic basis. So, new GSTR 2B, that will actually, it is a similar GSTR 2B. Only thing is that it can be regenerated again and again on the basis of the actions taken in IMS. So the actions that you take, if it is accepted, then it flows to GSTR2B, as we discussed in the earlier slide. And if it is kept as pending, then it will not be reflected in GSTR2B. And if the before filing of GSTR2B, for example, if we have been able to get the nexus of the invoice and we are intending to claim it, then we can accept it and regenerate the GSTR2B even post 14th of the particular month, and the credit can be claimed for the same. So the slides covers all that point, that it can be modified till GSTR 3B is filed for that particular month. It can be recomputed again and again to incorporate the changes, and it can also be downloaded in Excel for easy reconciliation purposes and for record keep. Okay, so now I will take you to the draft manual of IMS, wherein how it is reflected on the portal, we will see that. So are we able to see the draft manual here on the screen? Can anybody confirm whether we are able to see the draft manual?
Hello.
Yeah. Can you see the draft manual? Is it
1 second.
visible?
The screen is blank, ma'am. Screen is blank. Yes, yes, we are able to see this.
Okay, the draft manual is visible, right? Okay. Yeah. So the tab, we have to go to gst.gov.in tab, and in that returns there is a separate option for IMS that has been created, and this is a snippet of the same that is being reflected on the GST portal. We go to the services returns tab, and there is an IMS dashboard, and it is available for both inward supplies and outward supplies. Now, when we were discussing earlier, we said the rejected transactions will be removed from the inward supplies and will be intimated to the outward supplier that it has been rejected by the person on the name invoice had been generated. So outward supplier can see that transaction from this tab. We will see further how it can be in the further uh, below slides, that how it can be reflected through outward supplies in outward supplies as well. So here in inward supplies, it shows table wise transactions, that is B2B invoices in the transactions that have flown through amendments, debit notes, credit notes, e-commerce related invoices, and the number of invoices that are there are shown, and it is bifurcated into 4 tabs, that is accepted, rejected, pending, and no action. As we discussed, it can be downloaded in the Excel format, and there is an option to recompute GSTR2B. So once we update the transactions, the count of number of records will be reflected accordingly. And this is how we go into a particular tab. For example, in this case, a snippet of B2B invoices has been reflected, wherein there is an option to either click on the reject, pending, or accepted, and there is a status bar which shows what action has been taken against which invoice. There is an option to filter the particular entries or transactions. So on the basis of the purchase register that we would have, we can select the transactions that we want to filter out, and we can accept it in one go or reject it in one go. So a particular number of certain transactions which we know that this is to be accepted can be selected simultaneously, and the appropriate action has to be taken. And that can happen with multiple transactions. So this includes all step-by-step transactions that we discussed. Now we can even select it from here, and we can update the records. And once we select the transactions, it can either be accepted or rejected. We cannot accept, reject together. It's only a single type of transaction can be clubbed together. If it has to be accepted, then all accepted transactions can be taken together and one action can be applied. Yeah, and there is an option to save it. So once we save it, it gets updated. Here the option to save. There is an option to save it. And if we feel that no, we are not able to understand what has been selected and what has been still pending, or we want to reset the data. What we have done, we want to revisit again. Then there is an option to reset the data as well. And there is an option to compute GSTR2B. So every time we update the details here, we will have to, it is modified, we will have to recompute GSTR2B so that the actions taken here can be reflected in GSTR2B and then in 3B. And once we agree to it, the data is saved and we can download GSTR2B for that particular month, and it will include the transactions. Now, outward supplies. What all is included in outward supplies? So gives us a financial year and return period details to be selected. And on that basis, it provides us the transactions that has been uploaded by us in GSTR1. So for example, for the particular month of 22-23, for the December return period, this many transaction has been updated on the GST portal by this party, the sales transactions we are talking about, because it is relating to the outward supply. And we can see in the, so this can also be downloaded through IMS supplier view option in Excel. And we can see the bifurcation again, as we had the details, bifurcated details in the inward supplies, or similarly bifurcated details in the outward supplies relating to invoices, credit note, debit notes, amendments done, and so on. E-commerce operator related transactions are bifurcated here. And here there is again there is a filter on search option, and in the column to the right we can see the status of the actions taken by the recipient. So if the recipient has accepted it, rejected it, or he has not taken any action, can be reflected here. And whether the 3B has been filed by him or not is also reflected here. So the two-way communication channel that had already been promised since the time GSTR 1, 2, 3 module was proposed has been actually implemented through this IMS system. With this, we have completed the manual part, and we will be again shifting to the PPT that we have. So there are FAQs that we want to cover, but first we will cover the critical points, because in the critical points, majority of the FAQs we have already covered. We are able to see the PPT, right? Can you confirm?
Yes, ma'am, we are able to see the PPT.
The PPT. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So for
Ma'am, I guess your
critical,
screen got freeze because we are able to see PDF now, not
okay.
PPT.
Okay. Just give me a moment. I will reshare it. Yeah. Can you see my screen PPT? The PPT is visible now?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible now.
Yeah. So the earlier part was all theoretical that we have covered, and it was all the provisions that we have said that it has to be accepted, rejected, keep it pending. But when we start doing it in actual, we will realize that, we will have to go through every transaction. And what can be the possible tips and tricks to do it so that we are saving on our time, efforts, and the data, the whole purpose that the data, the errors has to be reduced, the data can be reconciled on the portal itself. Those all criteria can be achieved. Those all the we can achieve that objective of reconciliation on the portal itself and without errors or minimal errors. So there are few critical issues in this IMS details. It does not, it facilitates taxpayers reported in IMS. Okay, to further facilitate the taxpayers view of IMS has been suppliers view action. Okay, this we have already discussed that it has a supplier view. The it also enables to track the recipient actions. That also we discussed when we have seen it on the live, the screenshots of the details. Then again we can modify it. This also we have seen if there is any discrepancy, it can be modified. Now, what about the quarterly taxpayers? So GSTR 2B can be the GSTR 1. For many taxpayer would have opted for QRMP scheme. So in case of QRMP scheme, if they have not filed their IFF, the data won't flow on a monthly basis to GSTR2 or IMS, so as to say. And in that case, the months for M1 and M2, particular month. So, for example, October, November, and December together will be shown in the month of December, and GSTR 2BQ can be generated. Even the IMS related transactions will only flow post filing of GSTR1, that is in the month of December. And in the month of October and November, there will be no transaction in the IMS portal unless an IFF is filed by the supplier. And what happens to GSTR2A? GSTR2A shall still continue to be generated the way it used to be earlier. The most important point, if the recipient rejects the credit note issued by the supplier, then it gets added, the corresponding liability gets added to the supplier's liability in GSTR3B in the subsequent period. Now, what does that mean? It means that once, if there is an invoice is raised, for example, and at a similar point, it was an error done by the person generating an invoice, and without informing the recipient of invoice, we have generated a credit note against that invoice, and a new invoice has been generated, and the new invoice only has been provided to the recipient. And when the IMS is reflected in IMS, because it was generated through e-invoice and uh, it has flown to IMS, we will be able to see two invoices and one credit note. So in earlier, majority of the SME clients had a practice that they had not been taking into consideration the old invoice, the invoice which was the first invoice that was issued, and the corresponding credit note to it, and a directly second invoice would be taken into accounting purpose and even reported on the portal. But here the action needs to be taken on all these three transactions. And if by any error, if we, I mean, not by error, if we say that we are not going to accept the invoice and the credit note, then the rejected invoice will stay as it is, but the credit note will get added to the supplier's liability in the subsequent month. So we have to be very careful when we are accepting, rejecting, or the transaction in the IMS portal, in the IMS tab. Yeah. So again, as we said that it is a transaction-wise entry, and it really helps for suppliers wherein the transactions are very limited or to a certain extent. But if it is a huge list of transactions, then additional resources will have to be used to modify, accept, reject those transactions, each and every entry wise, unless a offline utility or the software kind of a system is integrated to make this process further, uh, make it more seamless or to be automated, I would rather say. Now, if there is an invoice in multiple lines, then several line items we will have to mark as accepted, rejected, and few part of it we might have not accepted. So this is a case wherein if there is an invoice of 1 lakh rupees and we are saying that we will be accepting 80,000 worth of amount. So earlier there was an option. In fact, till now also there is an option that we can select part of the amount. We can take a credit on the part of the amount. But that kind of a facility is not available in IMS. In IMS, we will either have to accept the invoice in totality or we will have to reject that transaction. There is no option to part accept the amount. And as discussed, the offline utility is still in process, and If the transactions are above 500 entries, then there is an option to download it and see it. But we cannot take actions offline, and thus they are still not able to use this facility of IMS. Few tips that we can discuss now in order to do this activity on a month-on-month basis in a practical scenario. Now we can always visit GSTN or frequently, so that we have a list of transactions ready which are not being reflected, and we can follow up by the supplier as to why it is still not being reflected, and asking him to update or modify it so that it can be claimed. The credit can be made available into the same month. We might not have to wait for the coming month to claim that credit. So we have to act on the transactions which are being updated in the IMS through filed returns. If we can also act on the transactions that are still pending to be filed. But if before filing the transactions are modified, then it again goes back for an action, and we will again have to select accept, reject, pending. So it is always advisable that when we are taking actions, if they are on the filed returns, the chances of that changing does not arise as in non-filed returns. And in case if we are planning not to claim the credit of it, then we can keep it as pending and we can claim it in the next month. And as we discussed, we can keep it pending uh, till we file the October return in the month of November. That is 16 for deadline, 30th November. Before 30th November, all these pending transactions, we can take actions and take it in our GSTR 3B returns. Once 3B is filed, this transaction flows out of the IMS system. And if the cutoff date of 30th November is gone, then this transaction are flushed out from the IMS system. We will not even be able to see these transactions in future. And avoid rejecting the transactions. Now, why we are saying that we have to avoid rejecting the transactions? Earlier, we discussed scenarios wherein we said that we can reject this kind of transaction if it is not matching with us, or if we are not accepting the credit note, we might reject it. But if we reject certain transactions, for example, we discussed a case wherein we have 1 lakh rupees of invoice, out of which ideally we were supposed to claim credit on the taxable value of 80,000 rupees only. But we can either accept the whole amount and through the basis of reversal claim the respective credit to the extent of 80,000, or else we can reject the transaction. Now, if we reject the transaction, it again flows to the supplier's part of IMS, and the supplier might have to again modify it and update it for it to again come back to us. So here I will further simplify what I have explained here, that once you reject a particular transaction, for example, we are rejecting that invoice of 1 lakh rupees saying that the amount is not matching, and that is reflected in the supplier's panel saying that the transaction has been rejected, and supplier is required to take any action on it and re-upload it. If that doesn't happen, then that 1 lakh rupees, if he is not doing it, changing it to 80,000 in near future and resending it to you, then you might not be able to claim the credit of it. Until and unless the changes have been made, it will not flow into your IMS and you will not be able to claim the credit of it. Thus, rejection has to be done unless you are sure that you are not supposed to claim credit of it at all, or it is completely not your invoice, then only go for the option of rejection. Or else, in the scenario wherein we said 1 lakh rupees and 80,000, we can accept 1 lakh rupees and then we can do a reversal of the amount of 20,000 rupees to claim the credit of net 80,000 rupees instead of rejecting it and waiting for the supplier to update it on the portal for us to flow in our GST 2B. We would also advise to download all the monthly returns so that in future, if we want to refer to anything, we can refer. And as we discussed, that the data will be fleshed out on a month-on-month basis. Once it is accepted and once it flows into GST or 2B, it is fleshed out from IMS. So it is always better to have the file that had been initially uploaded or was reflected on the IMS portal so that we can go back to check the transactions and ensure financial accounting as per IMS. Means what? That if we have certain transaction in purchase register and it is matching in the IMS portal and we are accepting it. So this is in line with our financials that is reflected in IMS. So it is flowing in GSTR 2B and 3B, so and so forth. But if we are we don't have a particular entry in our financials, then we should rather keep it as pending rather than claiming the accepting it and then reversing it. We should keep it as pending so that we will have a list of transactions as to which are pending. Then we can accept the invoices for which credit note is to be raised either in the same month or in the month of in the credit note in the month in which credit note is reflected. Now, what do you mean by this sentence? It says that once the credit note has to be compulsorily accepted. It cannot be kept as pending, either accepted or rejected, but it cannot be kept as pending. So in order to do so, you will also have to accept the original invoice. So you can do that in the same month or in the month wherein the credit note is reflected, but you will have to also accept the invoice for which the credit note is pertaining to. And this is contradicting to a provision of GST which had been amended some time back, wherein it said that we don't have to maintain credit note. I mean, the correlation of the invoice and credit note need not be there, and credit note can be issued irrespective of the invoices. So the mother invoice need not be tagged with the credit note as per the existing provisions, but because of the said criteria in IMS, we will have to keep a track of the existing invoice and against which invoice the credit note has been issued, or else we will not be able to update the details here on the portal. And we just don't have to see the inward related part. We also need to check the outward related part, because if there is any transaction which is rejected by the recipient, by our recipient, then that if it is a credit note, it gets added to our outward liability, and we might have to communicate to that person that it is to be updated or changed. And we can also see how many of our suppliers have been diligently looking into the transactions and reconciling it through IMS. So it gives us a check as to how many suppliers have been complying through IMS. Now, before going to the question answers part, I will just like to highlight 3-4 points that we have not covered in the slide. So one of it is that even GSTR 2B will be sequential now. Means if the GSTR 3B for the earlier month has not been filed by us, then earlier it was said that we could not file GSTR 1. GSTR 1 was made sequential. Similarly, GSTR 2B is also made sequential. So until and unless your earlier month GSTR 3B is filed, paid and filed, we are not able to even file GSTR 1, and we cannot even download GSTR 2B now. So we will have to first file that, and then only we will be in a position to uh, download the GSTR 2B for further reconciliation. Then there is one more point that we would like to discuss is the liability of supplier will be increased. As I said, that if we are increasing the, I mean, the credit note is rejected, then the liability of the supplier increase that we have already discussed. Now, in which registered person will be able to see IMS? This I will show it to you through the FAQs that had been issued by the department. I will share the FAQ part. Just give me a second. Yeah. So in this FAQ, there are 2 points that has not been a part of our PPT. One is that the taxpayer registered as a normal taxpayer, a casual taxpayer, or SEZ or developer can access the IMS functionality. So only these people can access the IMS functionality. And it is, I mean, they can take actions according to it. And there is one more point that we would like to discuss is what will happen if the recipient rejects the tax invoice or debit note for the supplier for financial year 23-24, which was eligible for GSTR 2B of October 24. Okay, so to give a reference to this point, so when IMS was implemented in the month of October, and I mean on it started on 1st, and we could select transactions from 14th of the October. Uh, at that point in time, certain transactions pertaining to the previous year or the current year for previous months, those were being reflected into the IMS set. So now what were we supposed to do about those transactions? Because majority of them I would have already been recorded in our purchase register. So it has been clarified that if the credit is not claimed by you, you can accept it. It will flow into your GSTR 2B. You can claim the credit note. I mean, claim the credit of it. I'm sorry. And if you reject it, then it again follows the same channel, and you will not be able to claim the credit of it. So we had to decide for those particular transactions which for some reason was uploaded in the month of October pertaining to the earlier year or the even for the current year. So for earlier year 23-24, if any transactions had flown in the month of October, then these actions could be taken. And with this, we have tried to cover almost majority of the points. One thing that we can go through here is this impact of ITC and the liability under the different scenarios. So this has given each and every possibility. This list has a list of transactions, the possibilities, wherein what type of action we can take, and on the basis of that action, what liability will be shown in the court. So that can be referred through the FAQ part. And if we can take any questions, then with that we can take any questions, and I have completed my presentation on IMS.
Good evening, everyone. We will wait for a couple of minutes. If anyone of you has any questions, you can put that because I couldn't find any question till now. So we'll just wait for another minute to see if anyone of you has any doubt, any questions. You can put it in your question tab. We'll see if we are getting any question for a minute. Okay, all right. I think we don't have any question. Ma'am has explained us very well that we are all able to understand the concept in clarity, and we will be getting the PPT of the presentation, so we will be able to refer back to it whenever required. So with that, I would like to now take the honor to present my vote of thanks. So once again, good evening, everyone. As we are coming close to this session, this insightful session on IMS in GST, it is my privilege and honor to extend my heartfelt vote of thanks to CA Mansi Nagda ma'am. On behalf of Women Member Empowerment Committee, I express our deepest gratitude to CA Mansi Nagda, ma'am, for sharing her valuable time, expertise, and deep insight with us today. In-depth explanation in IMS with respect to GST, practical perspective, and clarity in breaking down this complex aspect has truly enlightened us. The knowledge and takeaway from today's session will definitely help us in navigating the GST compliances better and effectively implement this in our practice and in our professional endeavors. A special thank to our audience for their active participation. Though we couldn't see any questions with respect to the topic, but I feel they have taken their time to understand the topic very well from ma'am. So I also extend my appreciation to the organizing team and all those who work behind the scene to make every event seamless and successful. Once again, thank you, C. Mansi Nagda ma'am, for your valuable contribution. We look forward to more such interaction with learning opportunity with you. With that, I now hand over the session to my co-moderator, C. Lavina Goel ma'am, to take it forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chandni.
Thank you so much, Chandni. My name is Lavina. By educational qualification, I'm CA and CS. Initially, I started my career in indirect taxation regime in the field of service tax. Then I went to a 6 years career break, and recently I'm currently working with uh, in the field of mergers and acquisition with a consulting firm, US based consulting firm. I have a great privilege in welcoming CH Kajal Mukhi ma'am, and thank you so much for sparing your time to be on the panel and sharing your insights. Before I hand over the mic to you, I would like to give a brief intro about Kajal Mukhi ma'am. She's an experienced colleague in the field of finance and taxation. She has over 8 years of experience with working with top firms like PwC, EY. At present, she is working as a business controller at Epiroc. She leads a team of 15 plus and oversees group reporting, strategy, and budgeting at their Nasik plant. She is very passionate about public speaking and mentoring CA students. So, thank you so much again. And without taking much of the time, I would hand over the mic to you.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. To my co host, to the co moderators, and all the participants on the panel. Heartfelt gratitude to the organizing committee for giving us this chance to present ourselves and also to get an opportunity to coordinate with so many people at a common platform. I think my topic, art of networking, kind of coincides with what we all are doing. This platform or this initiative is actually one of the biggest networking skills which we have been blessed with. So first of all, I think I take that inspiration from the committee only, that the ways and the means which we are doing for telling us that what can be the different ways of networking over here. So we'll just start with the topic, just to let everyone know. I'm not going to present any PPT, not going to show some seven to dos or six to dos and three must have things and all. You have to bear with my face and my voice for next 30-40 minutes, because I my own funda for networking skill is your personal touch. The moment you can assign your personal touch and the human skills to any conversation, it can go at levels, and it can give you the desired results. So that is the first learning I have, which I'm going to adopt to this. So we don't have any PPT or anything to be shown on the screen. I would request the participants if we can make it little interactive, because the topic we're going to discuss is networking, and it is all about putting your thoughts and putting into when you're on a common stage, what makes us interact with people, and what should be our to dos, or what is the fear we have. So I would request, if if there are some things which you would like to ask, or if I ask something, that if you can just pose your answers or your views on the comment box, and my moderator will help me to read that out. So a gentle request to all the participants, moderators, if we can make it little interactive for all of us. So when we say networking, I think let's just dissect the word networking, or the concept networking, and make it little move ahead from the corporate world. Let's not get into the jargon of saying networking. What is that we do daily in our lives? Let's link it to the regular life cycle. How do we really build on relationship and communicate with people, and also to the people who we don't know, to the people who maybe we meet during the day or in our life, which is maybe for the first time. If we can just link it with normal scenarios of our life, when you will have a new neighbor who comes and stays to your house, or maybe you move out and live into a different part of the city, or move out of the city when you have a different people around you. Maybe some new addition in your family, someone has got married and has come from a different culture. So what do we do at those point of time is take small steps to build a network, to speak to them. So I have faced that thing, that when I've got a new neighbor who started coming near to me. So it's obviously it takes certain amount of time to get into that phase, but it ain't that a networking skill, that you find a common point, and that you find one day that you just click on one thing and then you start communicating. So, in that a networking skill is what is that you relate to a person. So when we look ourselves and say that, okay, how do we network? If it is in our professional world, that we want to network with our colleagues, we want to network with external colleagues, maybe we go out for tax offices, other consultants. How do we network? I think it is very important and very easy to really take inspiration from our regular lives, whatever we do. That how do we network, or how do we build relationships in our regular life into that. Take that inspiration from your regular lives and apply it in our professional ones, is one of the thing what I do. So I would request everyone, whenever we are discussing in the next 30 minutes, whenever we discuss stuff, maybe we try to link it to our regular lives, that how we do that, and if we can make it a little easy to do it in our professional lives. So as we are saying that it's art of networking, and I find that art with the word networking is the perfect word which we can assign it to. It's the perfect prefix it can have, because networking is truly an art. It is not like you can just learn. You can have those seven must things you need to have, put it in a pill, learn the seven most things, and you can adopt it. It is an art which needs to be practiced, which needs to be done at a daily level, or in a regular interval. And it is not kind of an exam or certificate that once you have done it, you have attained it. There is always a room for improvement. There will always, even if you're a very great orator, there will come a day that when you will fail at it, right? So it's not like that once you have done it, you have attained it all. That, oh, I know networking, I know effective communication, I'm great at public speaking, so then it's done. It's an art which needs to be practiced daily, and also improved upon daily. That today if I did the thing in this way, how can I do it better? If I today I'm communicating this way, how can I make it more impactful? So it is a skill, it is an art which needs to be worked upon perpetually. So this is what even I try to do, that whenever we speak to someone, whenever we network someone, always retrospect in your mind that, okay, how did it start? If it ends early, oh, how would I have said it better how would I have elongated the conversation? So that is one of the things that we should always do, is to practice and also to improve upon it. So with that, when I would like to ask the audience over here, if we take an example of networking skill, for example, a lot of us, we attend seminars, we attend not only related to our field, but then related to other fields. If we are in a networking event, or if we are in a CA seminar, and there are a lot of unknown faces, or maybe there, we don't know anyone, we go and step into a seminar like that, and we want to network, we want to know people, we want to speak to them, we want to build, we want to have interactions with various people. But what is the most difficult thing to do there? And what we can imagine is a seminar, and you have stepped it, and there are a lot of unknown faces over there. What is the most difficult thing to do? Can I request audience, if you have something, if you can respond on the chat box, or maybe our moderators, if you have something. So when I had spoken, when we used to discuss this amongst our groups and people, the one common answer which even I say today, if you ask me, that is also the one common and the very foremost answer which I will give is, what is the most difficult thing in networking, is to take the first step. We always think that what that other person is going to think. Am I intruding that person's privacy? Is that person with already with 3 4 people? What he will feel if I will ask that question? What if I will say hi, hello, and then he is not interested in? So the biggest fear is to take the first step. And many times I've seen that if the other person just starts that conversation moves in such better way, just because that other person has taken that first step. So I think the biggest fear in networking, or the biggest thing which we need to work on, is to take that first step. We should meet people, and we should, whatever is our way of asking that, how we can do that. I think Himani stated in the chat that starting a conversation, that's what we were saying, that just taking that first move. So once you have forfeited that, or once you have won that thing, that you have started that conversation, made that first move, you have won half of your battle. Why? Because that battle and that thing in your mind to start a conversation is in everyone's mind. Everyone is thinking that, and trust me, everyone is. I'll request that when you will sit in your groups of 5 and 6, just ask this question, because we have done that. We have sat in a lot of groups and said that networking के time पे, whenever we are discussing, अगर आप 4 अननोन लोगों के साथ हो, तो हम बात क्यों नहीं करते, या सामने वाला बात करता है तो हम इतना easy क्यों हो जाते हैं जवाब देने में? It's just that starting that conversation. So if we really want to ace the networking skill, the very first thing we should do is take the first move. Take the first move to initiate a conversation. And when we say initiate a conversation, for a networking to be effective and to work in your favor, it is very necessary and it is foremost that you have to be a good listener. You have to be a good listener, and you have to be a good conversationalist. When we say good listener, I think every one of us knows that it is a great difference between listening and hearing. If you're just hearing, if you're speaking to someone, and then that person is just on mobile, that person is hearing, that person is not listening to you. So when we say listening, is actually acknowledging what the person is sharing with you, and also being answering to it and showing interest into that. In today's world, when we are saying that so many people have started referring to people, or referring to mental, when you're mentally stressed, when you refer to specialist, and when you refer to psychiatrist, the very big thing over there is Why? Because they want someone to listen to them, is the biggest thing. So I mean, not going to the mental thing first, but just applying that logic, that the moment you listen to someone and you acknowledge what they say, there is a very big amount of relief that person has it in mind, that yes, you can start a conversation over here. So whenever we want to network, or whenever we run in networking areas, and if a person is sharing something, and we want to have build a network around it, it is very necessary that we pay a patient ear to that someone, and give respect to that person, that what that person is trying to tell to us. Some other areas which are necessary, or we can pay attention to, is your confidence and your body language. If you are communicating with someone, if you're a networking event, and I think this goes both the ways round. If you're the one who is initiating the conversation, or if you're the one who is receiving the conversation, your confidence and your body language speaks a very big way. I think all of us has learned the importance of your hand gestures, the importance of how you sit, how you respond to it, and when you speak, right? That are you blattering, or are you saying oh, that kind of words, that when you speak a lot with the confidence of that person, and with your hand gestures and with your eye movements, if you show that person a certain confidence and your body language is very positive, that conversation can go a very long way. As against, if you're communicating with that person, I think this goes other that way around. I have experience, when in seminars and in networking skill, after that, if we just go out to faculty, ask some questions, and if they're willing to listen to you in a very patient way and can answer you, you actually get confidence about it, and you can move out in a very positive way. As against that, if there is someone who's not in the mood to entertain, or that person does not really have the time to entertain it to you, you can really get those answers in their actions. They will not have that eye contact with you, they will not have that hand gestures while explaining to you, they will not answer to you in a confident way. So I think these are real ways which we should keep in mind, not only when we are seeking a networking, but also if the other person is seeking from us, that maybe a gentle tone in our voice, maybe hand gestures, maybe our eye movements can really give that person confidence, and then that conversation can really elongate and move in a better way. With that, as I think I touched upon that in any everyone is into that mode to network and to build, to have people around them. But everyone, all of us here in our participant area, or in the co-host area, can say that each one of us has a different set of peoples we hang out with and our network with. If we say a common point, we all are chartered accountants, we have certain level of competencies with each other, so that it can be common that we can have a certain common set of friends. But I think that is different for everyone has their own set of priorities, or I would say likes and dislikes, and accordingly it's the same amount it's similar, that what kind of people we attract. So what makes us, being in the same profession, or maybe being in same age, still having different views, is your personal touch. So in networking, if you're really, if you can bring your personal touch on the table, if you can show your compassion, and if you can bring something which is unique to you and a humanitarian ground, I think that conversation goes a very long way. If you just restrict it to business, and just speak on the required stuff, that conversation becomes really little to the point, and maybe you cannot elongate it, and you cannot build that relationship and that conversation of 2 minutes into a relationship of future. It might end over there, when you have spoken to a certain aspect, you have asked something, the person has answered the question, and then it ends. But then when you say that you have to build onto the relation, when you have to build onto a networking thing, it's very important that you bring personal touch to it. You have to be authentic. Let's We should not try to pose ourselves something what we are not, because that is what really does not help us in the long run. And when we are speaking of networking skills, we always say that what are the long term relationships we are bringing. So you be authentic, who you really are, and if there are some things you don't know, there are some things we don't know. So let's be it's very important that become you show your authentic self to it, so that it helps you in building long term relationships in future. Many people, I've heard many people say that, I don't want to quote anyone because I've heard it from a lot of mouth, your network is your net worth, is what goes very commonly in social media, and you will read a lot of people quoting that. That's true. uh, I've seen a lot of people that they are being judged. I'm not sure if judge is right word. If they are being looked at or analyzed or seen in a way by the by the people they work with, or by with the kind of network they have. So your network is your true net worth. I think I live by it, and I have seen and I've experienced people that who live into a very motivated and a very empathetic kind of, in you're around empathetic kind of people, it really flows to you, and that becomes your net worth. But over here, I really have I keep on thinking on that point, that when we say on the networking skills, and when we really go and speak, and just you don't really have an agenda. Suppose we are on a seminar, you got a really great speaker, and you want to network with them. What we can do is that you can just take one point, discuss with them, but post that, how it really helps, how it goes forward. Because till the time you are not bringing anything on the table, is it going ahead? Network, I don't really feel that knowing a person what that does in their domain and what you do in domain, you have both introduced yourself, that person is in your network, that person is in your known list. Till the time we are not offering any value, till the time both of us are not bringing something on the table, I'm not sure if that converts into a network. So when we say of the networking skills, it is, there's one part when we say that we want to have know people, but then when you want to build up into a networking skills, it's important that you have a purpose. You bring something on table which is for which is for benefit of each other, and then it turns into network. In our community, I have seen the biggest of the strongest of the networks are built when one person helps the other person with respect to anything in their career or anything in their professional journey. That can be a simple reply or simple help when the person is in need. That can be simple in referring a client with regards to something, that, oh, you need to get this work done, I know that person. And I have seen that when you are being referred, or when you are of being help to someone, that someone needed something, some sort of a professional help or any help, and you were being of help, and you got referred or someone referred you, that kind of relationships goes a long way. It's because that you both bought something on the table, that person was of aid to you, you were of aid to that person, you both networked in such way that you both brought value to each other. These kind of relationship goes a real long way. But are these things common? We meet so many people during the day, but it is practically not feasible that every time you're offering any value, right? Sometimes it's just that you're knowing other person, and maybe getting in contact, which may help you in future. So I feel that when we say that you should bring or offer value, it's not so common of it. So instead, when we say network, it's not necessary that you do it for work. At times when you meet people, it's just that you meet people, and it's you make your contacts, and you make maybe friends, and you make colleagues. For me, that is also a sort of networking. It's a knowing one person, sharing their thoughts, and at that point of time, just making a contact, which may turn into a very good or better network going forward. So before networking, there is a step which comes when we say that you should make friends, you should communicate, and you should make colleagues. Networking is what is usually said is always with a purpose, but always having a purpose at that point of time is little not practical. So I personally feel that a networking without purpose is also a thing, and you should never lose on to your opportunity doing that. And maybe that opportunity is what you can seize, or what you can call as a contact building, or relationship building activity, is because a person will communicate with you when they find you real authentic, you're a good listener, you can talk to them in a better way. It's that when you build relationships, and then what is what you can convert it into network. So if I may ask, how many people really agree to it that a networking without purpose is also a thing, and you should actively pursue it? Because in my career, I've met a lot of people who may have not networked with a purpose, but it's upon a relationship building that you at that amount of time you have really exchanged thoughts, and you have really exchanged your professional professional career, and you have really spoken on it on a very good amount of time, and then you have built on a relationship, you have built on a contact, and that may not be for a purpose. So for me, that is also networking. Some more areas which I'd like to touch upon is that which the small things which really help us in building a networking skills. There are two school of thoughts with regards to the small talk, that whether small talk helps. I think it's really situational based, and it is subjective that whether a small talk helps. It depends that what amount of time you really have with a person, and what kind of stature and what kind of experience people you are really talking to. With me, small talk helps. When you are maybe in a seminar, or maybe in any event where there are a lot of different people from different backgrounds have come in and are discussing, and you're sitting on a table from the right background, and then small talk helps. Weather, traffic, what's going on social media, mobiles. I think these are the very very common topics which can really help you to start a conversation, and have an icebreaker thing to deal with a person. But there are places where a small talk won't work. When you really have very small amount of time to network with the people, and to speak, and to develop or to initiate a very good conversation, at that time small talk really don't help. If I can give a very vague an example which comes to me on foot, is that right now that era is not there, when people used to call radio jockeys, and radio jockeys used to ask you a question and say that call us and tell us what has happened and what is your view on that. In that if we take that example, if someone has called them, and then at that time radio jockeys really need to in that sense, since they have this attention and entertainment span, they really need to strike a conversation with that person in a minute, so that whatever is the questions and whatever the other person wants to share, it gets shared in a very fluent, and it gets shared in a very authentic way. So maybe small talk in that way will not help, because you really have a very small amount of time to initiate the conversation and make it real authentic. So they have their own ways that they try to touch upon the personal aspect of the person, and maybe say something personal, and try to get into that conversation. So those are the areas where small talk doesn't work. So I feel the small talk, it is not like that it is a to do, or must have or not have in a networking skill. It is really subjective that at what stage of time and in what area we are, and then what do we really want to do with that. Do we want to initiate a small talk, or do we want to take something, say, some other thing to initiate a conversation upon. I- when when we are on the other side of it, that a lot of people wants to network with us, or speak with us, a very important thing which comes is that we be present. If a if you're on that side, that we know that how difficult it is to start a conversation, how difficult it is to take the first move, go and ask some person, speak to them, that one person. So if you're on the other side of the table, a, you're not the giver, a, you were not the one who took the first step, but then b, if you're on the other side of it, that you have been approached or you have been asked, and we all will be, in both sides of the table. So if we are ready to take the first step and do the conversation, the giver part of it, the half of the battles is what we have earned. But if we really are on the second part of it, where the person is networking with us or communicating with us, it becomes very important that we are present into that person gets that sense of comfort, that whatever that person is saying is we are listening. Many a times is, what we have said, that if you're speaking, that person is on phone, and you kind of get a feeling that that person is not listening at all. So that is the point, that the person who's speaking and wants to express half of their confidence is just shattered over there, because the kind of body language the receiver has given them, the absent minded kind of feeling which that person has got is moved away. That person is really not in a stage that that can speak more and can ask for more guidance. So I think being really present over there and giving that person that you're in a listening mode gives a lot of confidence to that person. And I have, whenever in very big groups, when I have seen in people have been networking, there are a lot of people who don't know each other. The way the one who has to answer, and the one who is being asked or is on the receiver side is does is that ask for opinion. When you have been asked, and then when you're reciprocating, always give that person an opportunity to present their case, that okay, I think that this can be done, what is your opinion about it? If you have been put into that situation, what you will do? If I am into that situation, I would have responded that way, but tell me, if you would have been in that situation, how you will respond? So once we give that person a sense of importance, that okay, your opinion is being asked, that conversation goes a long way. In that networking session, networking areas, where most of the times we go to, if a person is given an opportunity to present their thought, it goes a long way to really give that person a boost, that how do we want to go ahead with it, and my opinion is actually being valued over here. So these are maybe what we say, that are the good to have factors whenever we are in a networking event and we want to network. Now if I just throw some light on what we should not actually do, and what are the areas where we should really restrain ourselves, and ignore in a networking event, or whenever we are communicating with person or want to build on to relationship. Don't be negative. Find the me too kind of areas. If you are into a gathering, and if you are into a group where you're discussing something, and any topic, for example, cricket is being discussed, that oh, we got to know that Jasprit Bumrah is awarded the test cricketer of the year and cricketer of the year, and the other person from there say, oh, I hate cricket. What are we doing over here? What have we created? There's a sense of negativity. The person who was sharing, and maybe there are 3-4 people who would have contributed to it, and a kind of good conversation is what would have built on. But then one person negative at it, oh, I hate cricket, is what kind of creates negativity over there, and then you have really stopped conversation over there. You cannot take that conversation ahead. So in that sort of gatherings where we are really for networking and we want to build relationship, it is advised that you have to be real positive and real open about it. um, I've seen people in that. I've seen people who are really experienced in speaking, people mainly trainers or orators, where when we do a lot of corporate trainings, they have this very good skill which I've observed, is that whenever you say something and that person is not being aware of, because a lot in corporate times what we do is that we quote our personal experiences, that in a मेरे journey में ये हुआ था, आप बोल रहे हो that the person should respond it like this, emotional intelligence से करना चाहिए, but my manager does not do that. So what do you suggest about it? We have seen this in a lot of times, that in that way, how the corporate trainers, or the people who really ace the skill of networking, they might not know answer about it, and they might not be interested about it. If I just take the example of cricket, that person will be like, oh, okay, while I did not read the news, and while I'm not interested in cricket, but tell me about it, what were you saying? Oh, is that what happened? A simple a simple way of being positive, not creating negativity around it, and acknowledging that what the person needs to share can really take that conversation to really take the conversation to a head. When you're not being negative, when you're not being closed, and you're being open. And second, when I say that you should what are the things we should not do, is again, by your body language, be closed about it. If a person is sharing something, not giving that proper feedback, or by just declining in hand gestures, and being closed in your body language, is a kind of turn off for many people. And this I've really seen, where a lot of people, when you're in a speaker mode, you're on a dais actually addressing a lot of people. And then it's not that you can see all of the people, but then sometimes if they just see that one person or one of the student who has made a hand gesture, like, oh, what is this speaking, I'm not able to understand, these small gestures from the other person takes the confidence of the speaker away. If that person is in a real good mode, that he's going to say something, and kind of get into a good conversation, one negative gesture, one negative move from any person can really take that person confidence away. So many times it happens that the conversation may not be of interest to you, but then it's very important that we pay some value to what the person is speaking, and at least provide that person, if not positive, if you cannot really contribute into the conversation and give that person some motivation, it's necessary that let's not be negative, and digress that person, that from your actions. So if not be a motivator, it surely we should not be a criticizer in that area. So these are some, I would say, not to do things which we should keep in mind whenever we are in a networking skill, or whenever we are building network. I'll just touch upon one of the thing, when I said the first taking that first move. Along with that first move, I think your first words just open the floodgates. How you start that conversation, and what words and what kind of gestures you use, can open the floodgate of opportunity, or can close it forever for you. So being little aware about what sort of words you used, and what sort of gestures and what citations we use for every person, is which one should be very mindful of. And one should always take care of the cultural and gender diversity, how you are addressing people, and what since we deal with people lot who comes from a lot of different cultural background. So one should always restrain speaking negative, or speaking their own personal views about a certain gender or a culture. We may not know that how a person may take that. So these were some of the not to do things which I feel that can impact your networking or communication skills. That is it from my end. I wanted to make it very little open and light-hearted to discuss. If we have any questions, or if we want to discuss on some important aspect, we are open. Himani, can you just check if we have something?
Yes, ma'am. There is a question. Could you please elaborate on negativity basis cricketer of the year, for example?
So I mean, I'll tell you, this has happened personally with me that I'm a big cricket fan, and whenever we sit into our the management team we have, or the friend group I sit in, and you're just sitting on a dinner table or discussing, and then come up with, oh, this has happened, just be. I'll tell you, this has happened like 2 days before with me, a day before and 2 days before with me. It's like, oh wow, Jasprit Bumrah just got the Test Cricketer of the Year. And in that meeting, what we were doing actually was, 1 year has so we have a calendar year end. It was 2024 has ended, and we were thinking, uh, based on our people survey, that what are the action items we should take for the people. So that was the discussion we were doing, and we had a break. And in that, I just said, "Oh wow, Jasprit Bumrah got Cricketer of the Year." And there was one member in the in our team who said, "Oh, I hate cricket. It is just paid nowadays." And I'll tell you, I was taken back. I was, because I was initiating a conversation. We were on a break, and I wanted to discuss something other than what we were discussing. And I was shattered on that point. While I understand that you may not really contribute into that, but I would say that what positively, or how positively you would have taken is, oh, I'm not into cricket nowadays, but oh, good. Is that it? Oh wow, is that happen? Is that how you really take that conversation? One can understand that if you're not interested, you cannot contribute to that conversation. But rather than negating it, rather than taking it negatively, it is always better that you make it neutral, and you don't really take it against that person's view. And post that thing happened, I was really taken back in my next session also. When we were really giving feedbacks that what action points we should take on the people part, that thing was just in my head, that I was really not able to contribute well to the main topic which we were discussing. Why? Because that just made me digress, or made me like shad my confidence a bit over there. So that is one of the example that why, or elaborate that how you should not take it negatively. If a person is saying something, and even if you don't agree to it, have a neutral view on it, but just don't negate that conversation. You're muted, Himani.
There are certain forums which accord awards basis a licensing fee. Is that a credible networking opportunity or a business model?
So obviously a credible business opportunity. I mean, see what people are doing is making, giving you a platform where people from various fields will come in. But again, understand that just by paying that fees and going over there ain't gonna help you with the network. That is just a platform which you will get for networking, but once you enter that platform, it is your own skills, those first mover things, those conversationalist attitude, this listening attitude, which will help you to build network. So while obviously those are credible ones, where there are people from different forums which come and share their knowledge, but that ain't gonna give you everything. You need to do a lot of things post that to really build your network.
One more question, ma'am. How do you break ice with the introduction of self to another without it being boring?
So again, I said it's an art. I mean, when if you're in a group of chartered accountant, and you start the conversation saying, "I'm CA this," it ain't gonna work. It is an art, and you really need to find that very typical way of introducing yourself. I'll give you one example. Um, when I was working in my previous company, I had one friend with me who was a army person's son. And when he was giving his interview to the HR, and also when he used to speak with a lot of people, because I was in Bombay at that time, and in Bombay a lot of people relocate from different cities. So whenever he was asked about to speak about himself, or whenever he used to introduce himself, he used to say that I am born in Jaipur and brought up in India. That was his art. I mean, just think that, if a person has said that I'm born in Jaipur and brought up in India, will you ask a question? It's like, oh, what do you mean? Why? Because he has found that one thing that where he can start the conversation. And he used to say that to many people. It's like, oh, you joined now, kahan se ho? So he's like, born Jaipur mein, brought up India mein. It's like, how? So like, my father has an army background, so हमारा transfer होता रहता था. तो मैं 7 स्टेट और 12 cities में रहा हुआ हूँ. यहाँ पे रहा हूँ, अब finally बॉम्बे आया. He found his art. He found his art, that how he has to introduce himself. So as I said, it is an art and it may work today. और वो उसका जो वो art था वो एक ही बार काम आता जब तक when he is coordinating first with the person, not always. So that's why I said that this is an art which you need to practice daily and which you need to improvise daily. So there are ways, and you need to find your own way of how do you really introduce yourself. I've seen people in chartered accountant organizations saying, hi, for a change I'm not a chartered accountant, and then it's like, oh, what? Oh, no, I was just kidding. But then, in a fun way also, you have just got a person's attention to at least listen to you, and that was a different way of introducing yourself. So it is an art, and you need to find your way, that how do you really introduce yourself. There are people who are organically funny and can do that, but there are people who are not organically funny, and it can just appear on their face. So you just need to find your own way, that how you do that. Many a times, even if you don't say, but a very warm handshake from you can make a person feel really comfortable. It's not always necessary with your words. It's always that, when you're sitting on a table, a person's pen fall by, and a person, something is falling by, and then you're just an act of gesture. Ma'am, this is not working. Ma'am, is this yours? That simple ways can really serve as your identity and can help you start a conversation. And this is what I'm really telling from my personal experiences, my friends' personal experiences also. So if that answers your question.
Ma'am, there are times when colleagues who we talk to regularly just stop talking all of a sudden. How to break the ice in this case of such strange behavior?
I think over here again, we are coming into a lot of personal aspect to it. As we said that, whenever you network and whenever you are building relationship, it is really personal. Your human touch is very important. So I think this is the perfect example in that case. I would suggest in that case, the best thing to do is be the real you. Go and speak to that person. The very simple reasons of it is that some of your act may have disturbed him. Your intentions might not have that, which has turned that person off. In a normal office scenario, some person has said something to him about you. It is a relationship between you two. Don't let a third person come in. Be the authentic you and speak to that person directly. Is something wrong? Is all okay? I just observe that you're off since some days. Did I do something which has hurt you? Obviously, I didn't do anything intentionally. But is this some act of mine which has impacted you? Do you want to speak about it? Do you want to speak about it now, or you want to take your time? It's because it's between you both. I don't think so there is anyone other than you both who can solve it. So I would say that be the real you. Just go and directly speak to that person and say those words. कि कुछ हुआ है क्या? जाने अनजाने में मेरी कोई बात बुरी लगी? Do you want to talk about it? शेयर करना है? अभी नहीं, बाद में शेयर करना है, जब तुझे ठीक लगे. बट आई कैन ऑब्जर्व कि समथिंग इज रॉन्ग. एंड एज आई सेड, वी ह्यूमंस आर सो, हमारे पास वो ह्यूमन कनेक्ट इतना इजी होता है ना, कि द मोमेंट समवन आस्क अस टू शेयर आवर फीलिंग्स, एंड कोई इफ यू रियली फाइंड समवन जो आपको सुनना चाहता है, आई थिंक यू विल जस्ट गो एंड स्पीक. आई मीन, आई थिंक इट्स वेरी कॉमन फॉर ऑल ऑफ अस कि हमारा ऑफिस में कभी बुरा दिन जाता है, तो यू जस्ट वांट समवन टू स्पीक. You just want someone to listen to you. We don't want advice. Advice bhi nahi chahiye. It happens with me. If I have a bad day, I just want my husband to listen to me. Don't give me gyan. कि तुझे ये करना चाहिए था, तुझे वो करना चाहिए था, तू ऐसा मत कर, कुछ नहीं होता, ना सिंपैथी चाहिए ना ज्ञान चाहिए. वी जस्ट वांट यू टू लिसन. एंड आई थिंक वो ह्यूमंस का बहुत बड़ा नीड होता है, दैट यू वांट समवन टू लिसन टू यू. सो अगर आप वो पर्सन को वो वाला स्टेज देते हो कि वी कैन स्पीक, अभी नहीं, बाद में अगर करना है, बट लेट मी नो क्या हुआ है, जस्ट लेट मी नो, आई थिंक दैट पर्सन विल बी रेडी टू शेयर विद यू एट दैट मोमेंट ओनली.
Ma'am, Sudha is asking, CAs in practice need networking, but irony is we lack that. As the years pass, it becomes very difficult. How to break that and go for a small talk with a person in seminar or other business forums?
uh, if when we are speaking of the networking, I think that's the bingo point which the person has touched in. And I think I started today that thing. हम ये जो आज एक platform पे हैं, I would say that this is one of the biggest networking skill, or was one of the biggest networking thing which is being served to us on our platform, and we should use it. Second, when आप जब सेमिनार में हो और जब आप नेटवर्क यहाँ बैठे हो एंड यू वांट टू रियली वांट टू टॉक, 3-4 लेडीज आपके आजू बाजू में और 3-4 लोग आपके बाजू में बैठे, बट वही हम वो फर्स्ट मूवर बेनिफिट ही नहीं लेते. हम वो फर्स्ट मूव और वो कॉन्वर्जेशन करने से इतना हिचकिचाते हैं ना कि क्या ये इंसान बहुत एक्सपीरियंस है, क्या ये इंसान कोई बहुत बड़ी फर्म में काम करता होगा, क्या इसका एक्सपीरियंस बहुत है, मैं इसको ये पूछूं, इसको बुरा तो नहीं लगेगा. You are responsible for your own growth. We want networking. क्या होगा? I mean, I feel ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा क्या होगा? That person will not reply to you, right? What max can happen? That person is not interested to speak to you. Go and speak to some other person. And one of the networking thing which I feel, while in today's आई वुड से सोशल मीडिया वर्ल्ड, और हमारा व्हाट्सएप जनरेशन में इतना एक्सपांड हो गई ना वो चीज कि वी में बी पार्ट ऑफ वेरियस ग्रुप्स, बट हम रियली कंट्रीब्यूट नहीं करते हैं. और वो चीजें मैसेजेस आ रहे हैं, देन यू आर रियली नॉट रिस्पॉन्डिंग एंड रीडिंग टू इट. I have personally seen, I have been part of certain CA groups, CA women groups, and if a query is being asked, and if you really help a person, it might happen कि आप एकदम क्रूशियल और एकदम कॉन्क्रीट आंसर नहीं दे रहे हो उस इंसान को, बट आप उसको थोड़ा भी हेल्प करते हो ना, या आप अपना व्यू देते हो ना कि आई थिंक दिस इज द थिंग, दैट पर्सन रिमेंबर्स यू. आई स्टिल रिमेंबर देयर वर 3 years ago, मैंने एक व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में एक क्वेरी डाला था, एंड देयर वर 2 people who really helped me. So if you want something, if you really want to build a group, start giving. And हमारे पास जो networking skill है, utilize them. Take the first mover benefit. Speak on something. From where did you come? Normally, if you really don't want to speak on the technical stuff, now which area did you travel? Oh, did you got traffic? Oh, I got stuck in traffic. Oh, you came from that side. Oh, I came from the other side. Oh, okay. Oh, the first session is this, right? This person is taking this session. Very normal stuff to break the ice. Use these non-technical topics to break the ice. And I'll tell you, as I say, we are humans, we really want to speak. We really want to, be the ones gossiping. And women's, I think, gossip, baat karna, it's forte hai hamara. It's just that someone needs to take that first move. Take that first move, and then where you have areas where you can really contribute and help a person, please do that. It goes long way. And I'll tell you, today I'm one of the speaker over here. I was invited because there was one time a person has asked a query, I had helped him, and that person has reached out to me today that do you want to be one of the speaker here. So I'm what are the examples I'm giving are all real life examples which has happened. So it works. It really works.
So, ma'am, all the questions are answered by you greatly.
Thank you so much. I think it was amazing that we completed in time.
Yes, ma'am. Very
Yes.
much in
So
time.
thank you so much, and I really appreciate that you made it interactive. I was the kind of arrangement we have is like I cannot see the participants over here, and it's one way conversation. I was really I was really little scared that networking skills ka session hum one way kaise karenge. But thank you, Imani, for taking it, and thank you for all the participants who really got took that effort of really sharing your views and asking questions. It was great for me. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am, for appraising us and for the wonderful session. I am sure your sharing regarding networking will help us in professional as well as personal context. And also, my gratitude to our great audience for being good listeners and taking time to join the session and making it successful. Thanks to the Women Empowerment Committee, support team, and technical team for arranging such learning sessions every Wednesday. Thank you so much, one and all present here. Thank you so much, ma'am, once again. Thank you for the wonderful session.
Anyone who was not able to ask anything over here, we can connect on LinkedIn and maybe speak separately on that. But thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Bye.